Hello and welcome to my channel. I am Zodiac Bandit, and today we're going to be recapping episode 85 of Campaign 3 of Critical Role. So let's get into it. We start in Rosora, the small farming village on Ruidus. The Bellcells are pulling the bodies of the dead and the unconscious into Elder Barthy's house to sort of hide them. Imogen is still in her cloud form and in the sky. She tries to find any reinforcements and see if they're coming towards the house. Unfortunately, it's late and hard to see, so she doesn't really see anything. Imogen then flies down into Barthy's home and begins to transform back to normal. Dono, once the combat had ended, had fled. He is now gone. Barthy is shaken and asks what they're going to do. Chet says he wants the trapdoor to his house. Barthy shows it to him. Ashton opens up the black hole and throws the unconscious bodies of the farmers and the remaining Ruidus-born, including the Willmaster, inside. FCG will try to time how long they've been inside so they know how much air is inside the black hole. Chew is extremely pissed at the party because they knew it was going to be dangerous working with them. Barthy says that the party killed Edmoda, the Willmaster, and if any of the other guards ask him what happened, he is going to say that he was held captive by the party. Orm wants to come up with a reason why there is a massive explosion. Imogen asks if there is anything that would cause an explosion in the village, and Barthy says no. FCG says the party can say that it was them and that they are farming equipment. Chenny opens up the trapdoor and sees it's like a storage area or a cellar. It's not big enough to open the black hole up in. Chenny says to put the bodies inside and then just close it. They have to do that at this point. The party aren't sure if the FCG plan will work. Orm sees outside that there are some Rylorans investigating the area outside. Chet, Ashton, and Lana decide they're going to go down into the cellar, and Imogen is going to make it look like she's working on FCG, and the rest are going to stay up with Imogen as well. There's a knock on the door, and Barthy opens it. There's a Vanguard member outside, who then steps back, and behind them is a Juggernaut and another Vanguard member that the party actually recognize. It's Ivan Hydroga, the owner of the Heartmore Museum. He asks if Barthy is the Elder and if he knows what the explosion was. Imogen says it was them, as she's slowly working on FCG. Hydroga remembers her from the museum break-in challenge ages ago and asks if they joined the Vanguard. Imogen says yes and rolls a high deception check to make him believe it. Hydroga asks if they brought anything from home. Imogen says yes and then points to FCG. Hydroga then asks if they brought something like a blanket. Imogen asks if they are homesick in his head, and he says yes, he hates it here but can't leave. The other Vanguard steps in, and they are a very sickly, pale-looking elf. They ask if Hydroga knows them. He says yes and that he hired them once. They are a very good addition to the Vanguard. Imogen asks if he is with the caravan. Hydroga says yes. Imogen wants to join the caravan and go to the capital. Hydroga says in his head, asking if she is sure that she doesn't have anything from home. It might help him persuade him into letting them come with. Imogen says he'll give him something on the way. Hydroga says he'll take them with him and introduce them to the others in the caravan. Chew is looking like she might rat the party out because she's very scared for Barthy. Imogen says to her in her head they aren't trying to hurt Barthy and is able to convince Chew in that private conversation. The sickly elf asks the party if they have seen the Willmaster. Imogen says that they left after the stampede. Deception check of 28. The elf relaxes a little bit and says they'll travel with the caravan. Fern asks for their name, but the elf only says that they will earn it once trust is earned, and the party might not even get it at that point. Orm uses Know Your Enemy to see that this elf is rather strong, like roughly around their level. The elf and the Juggernaut leave, and Hydroga follows shortly thereafter. Barthy closes the door. Ashton and the others come back up. Ashton opens the hole, and Ashton needs to make a wisdom save. They fail. They see a white light. They turn and they rage and they swing for Imogen. Ashton misses the first swing, but then hits the second one for 21 damage. Orm then bait and switches with Imogen, and it's time to roll initiative. Imogen is first, and she casts Mage Hand and uses it to try to close the black hole once again, quicken spelling to make it possible. The hand successfully folds the hole, and she ducks behind Orm. Fern is up. She finishes picking up the hole. It would be the Willmaster's turn as they woke up while this whole conversation was happening with Hydroga, but the hole is now closed. Ashton is up, and they just stand still like a statue, losing rage. Orm is up. Orm attacks Ashton with a non-lethal attack. He hits and makes a pushing attack. He deals 10 damage, but Ashen saves the push. Ashen then makes a wisdom save and succeeds it, and is no longer under control. However, Orym doesn't know this and attacks anyway, and hitting the same pushing attack. This time, Ashen fails and falls down into the cellar trapdoor of Barthy's house. The party realizes the Willmaster is awake in the hole, and the party plan to open it again and then pounce on it, trying to kill or hurt the Willmaster. They should be at least 1 HP, or at most 1 HP. FCG will be the bait and open it, and 3 other people will jump in the air as they do open it to try to attack at the same time. Ashen, Orym, and Chetney are the ones who are going to do it, and the witches will be on standby outside the hole for anyone who comes out looking to turn against the rest of the party. The Exalted is also down there. They're not sure if he's awake, and the other potential Vanguard members who they didn't kill might also be down there awake still as well. They drop the hole, and the 3 who are going to jump in begin to jump. The 3 are in the air, and they see the Willmaster as the hole completely goes flat. They all make non-lethal attacks. Ashen swings and deals 18 damage, knocking the Willmaster out clean. They see the Exalted boy is still asleep. Orym looks him over, though, and sees he's still breathing, and at one point his eye begins to move. He is pretending to be asleep and not actually asleep. Chetney ties them up and blindfolds them. They tie up the Willmaster as well, and blindfold them and gag them. They also gag the boy. And they gag the 3rd orc Vanguard member who's down there. Imogen can see a bright red tether to the Exalted boy down below. It's brighter than the tether to her and Fern. Inside the hole is the other Vanguard that they tie up. He's a half-orc. They tie him up as well. Barthy asks if they're staying here tonight and asks for what their plan is going to be. Ashen says that it's best that he doesn't see what happens, and Barthy agrees, and he goes and sits down and looks the other way from what the party are doing. Chet asks for the funnel. They're going to use the funnel to drain the Willmaster of power and then interrogate her. The party pick Orym to get the buff. FCG asks if Barthy has a way to deal with prisoners, and Barthy says no. They would normally just send them with the caravan to the capital if there's like a serious crime, or otherwise they would just get some sort of lashing. Barthy says that he could keep them in the cellar, but it makes him part of this whole thing, and he doesn't necessarily want to be connected to it. Lana says they are getting too far ahead of themselves. They need to ask the Willmaster questions first and then go from there. Imogen looks at the young Exalted and asks if he asks in his head if he can hear everything that they're saying. He says yes at first and then tries to cover it up and says no. Chetney pushes Orym forward, and they place the Willmaster up against the funnel. It fires up, and Orym feels the strange feeling around his neck. The weight of the Willmaster goes away as it begins to float in the air. Orym can't move and is locked in place, and it gets warmer and the magic begins to leave the Willmaster and goes into the funnel and then into Orym. A minute passes, and they pull it off Orym. He can now cast Dominate Person one time before his next long rest. The runes on the funnel darken. They take the gag off the Willmaster, and Ashen says if they yell, that things will go badly for them. The Willmaster just grits their teeth. Laudna casts Unsettling Presence on the Willmaster, and then Laudna makes herself look like an even more decaying woman in her form of dread. She lifts the mask and tells the Willmaster to answer some questions or she'll go to a terrible place. This scares the Willmaster. The Willmaster looks around the room, having a difficult time. The party think that she can't talk outside of her head. But eventually, she recalls how to and says that she will answer some questions, with great difficulty. Laudna asks what they're planning to do with the one who sleeps. The Willmaster simply says, "Wake it." Imogen asks what they're waiting for, and the Willmaster looks around the room, trying to pick and choose what it says. Orym says, "Tell us your secrets," and then cast Dominate Person on them. Orym's reasoning for doing this already is there isn't really going to be another opportunity for them to do it within the next day. They are a fighter, not a caster. The Willmaster fails, and their eyes go white. Orym says to tell them what their plans are with Predathos. She says Predathos is the heart of their people and made them what they are. They are its children, and it wants to wake and feast. And then when the gods are gone, the blue promise will be theirs. Orym asks what they'll do when they get there. The Willmaster says some want harmony and some want violence. They want the life that other people have down below. The Willmaster says they might carve a place that is their own, and then they'll talk. Imogen asks why not go now, and the Willmaster says there is a lot of strength that comes from the gods, and once they are gone, it will be an more even playing field. Lana says to answer the first part of the question, what are they waiting for? But at this point in time, the Dominate person ends, and the Willmaster says that they will see soon enough. Lana says she was to answer the questions and then make the deal, but the Willmaster says there is no benefit to her making a deal with them. Lana asks if she knows what Imogen is, and the Willmaster says an exalted, and she's on the right path and she will see soon enough. The Willmaster at this point is done talking. The party think it's best to talk to the young exalted boy. The party think the funnel might break if they try it again, so they won't be taking his powers today. Chetney takes the boy out of the hole and they throw the Willmaster back in. Fern sits the boy up, and Fern and Imogen will lead this conversation this time, to be less scary and intimidating. They take the blindfold off him. The blindfold is wet with tears, as he was crying. He's very nervous. The boy is holding his eyes shut, and FCG binds to Fern and Imogen and gives them a bonded blessing, which is an extra d6 on their next sort of ability score roll. Imogen says that she knows this is scary, and the boy asks if they're going to kill her. Imogen says no, and asks if he has just become exalted. He says no, it's actually happened to him a few times before, but it's very scary. He's only been here a few days. He came here with the caravan and was heading towards the city. Imogen asks how they found him on Exandria. He says, please don't kill me. He's very fearful in this moment. Imogen says that she doesn't want to, and he believes her. He says he started having dreams and felt a call and met others like him, and then met the Vanguard, who told him that he was following his destiny. They brought him to the key, and he met the Rylorans, who he felt connected to. He was to be brought to the Weave Mine to learn how to control his abilities. Imogen says that she had the dreams as well, and it feels wonderful to feel like they are home. Imogen asks if he can hear anything, mainly Predathos, and he says yes, he can, but he is too scared to listen to it. Imogen says that she wants the same thing, and wants to travel with the caravan, and wants to know if it's safe to go with them. He says that he was working under the Willmaster and felt safe. Imogen asks what his name is, and he says he is Petrov. He asks for her name, and she says she is Imogen Temult. He recognizes that name. Imogen says that that is her mother's last name, Liliana Temult. She was in his dreams telling him to join the Vanguard. Imogen says that she thinks the Willmaster is bad, and that her mother told her to take the Willmaster out. They were going to betray the Vanguard. And Imogen is able to convince him with this with a very high deception roll. She tells him to tell the caravan that the Willmaster ran away with the Stampede. He's on board with this idea. Imogen asks about the half-orc down below. Petrov says his name is Verdo, and he's just someone that he met and is with the Vanguard, not really with the Willmaster. The party think that it's a little bit safer now. Now they just need to deal with the Willmaster somehow. Some want to kill them, but FCG and Fern aren't on board with that idea. Lana wants to finish the funnel job on the Willmaster, but Fern thinks that using it makes them just as bad as Ludinus, especially in this type of way. Ashton says if the Willmaster wanted to live, she would have tried harder to stay alive and make a deal. He thinks that this doesn't make them anywhere near as bad as Ludinus. During this conversation, Chetney uses his grim psychometry on the funnel to see how Ludinus used it. Chet recalls the dark past of the funnel and harness. He sees a figure within the harness, and Chetney is in a tower. He is now wearing the harness. He looks through the eyes of Ludinus in this moment. He sees a fey entity hanging from the chains connected to the ceiling. They have big butterfly wings. It seems to be screaming, but there is no sound coming from them. Chetney feels a sense of hunger within him. He turns around and feels the runes light up and the magic begin to drain the fey creature. He feels a lump on the back of his neck and the pulse of power. Chetney then snaps back awake, holding the funnel in his hands within the black hole. Ashton says no matter what, the Willmaster won't live through this, because at this point that is the choice they've made. But he feels that it's up to Aurum. Will they try the funnel some more, or will they do something else? FCG wants to talk to Verdo. Chetney is worried that the funnel is somehow calling to Ludinus, and he uses the monocle to sort of look through it and see if there's any invisible stuff happening. He looks through it and sees that nothing is surrounding them, nor the funnel, or the Willmaster. Laudna says it's safe to assume that he made another funnel, so he likely won't have to check in on this one. Imogen tells Petrov that she needs to make sure that Verdo isn't working with the Willmaster. They put Petrov back in the hole, and they take Verdo out. He is still out cold. They wake him up, and Imogen wants to keep up the idea that the Willmaster is actually betraying the Vanguard. The party are on board with this idea, and they need Verdo to join them, or at least go AWOL in some way. Orm wants to use Liliana's name again, as it was a very good tool for Petrov. Chetney looks at the bodies of the Rylorans and the Vanguard who died. There's some money on them, some weapons, and some armor from the Rylorans. Back up with Verdo, Imogen takes his blindfold off, and he wasn't gagged. He looks like he's in his mid-20s. Imogen asks how close he was with the Willmaster. He says that they met at the Bloody Bridge and didn't talk to them much during the caravan ride. They are more just a guide for them. Imogen asks if he was a part of their schemes, and Verdo asks what schemes. Imogen says that they were going to betray them. Verdo says that he doesn't know anything about that, and that he was only going to the city with her, and after that he was probably going to go his own way. Imogen says that he's glad to hear that, and that she's glad he's here, and they're going to be going with the caravan. And if he sees anything suspicious, to go to the party. He agrees. There is no tether between him and Imogen. It seems he is not Ruda's born. He's just a regular Vanguard's sort of subordinate. Laudna wants to know if he knows anything about the plans with Predathos, and Imogen wants Imogen to look into his head. Imogen can, but the party say that it's a bad idea, as it might make them look suspicious. Laudna says to do it with the Willmaster then. The party like this idea a lot more. Imogen tells Verdo to keep quiet about the Willmaster, and he agrees, and he will go with them. The party send Petrov and Verdo to the caravan to tell them that the Willmaster left with the Stampede. FCG and Fern heal Verdo and Petrov. Laudna tells Verdo that Imogen is the daughter of Liliana Tomblet, and if he betrays them, they will know. Elder Barthy comes over and cleans the boys up a little bit, and Petrov and Verdo are now heading out. Fern wants to go with them to be safe, and FCG wants to go as well. They both have a different reason for leaving. They don't want to be around for when they kill the Willmaster. They believe it's wrong. FCG and Fern step out, and they see the ruined area that sort of was their fault outside. Some of the farmers are looking at the damage, and it seems to have caught a lot of attention. As they walk, they see Rylorans on guard, and they reach what looks to be about 7 carts with heavy materials on the outside, and there are tents being set up. Fern needs to make a perception check, but she rolls a natural 1. One of the vanguards sees Verdo and Petrov coming back with Fern and FCG. They're talking to someone. They're saying that they're still looking for 2 other Vanguard members outside of Petrov and Verdo. The person that the Vanguard member is talking to is Odahan Thule. Near FCG and Fern is a large bundle of red moss, much like the red moss they've been seeing all around them. There's huts and homes and some beast pens, but those are a little bit further away. Matt brings out a map to give a better view of it all. Fern says that she forgot her purse and she's going to go get it, and she turns back and starts to leave. FCG says me too and casts Misty Step and teleports behind the moss bundle. Fern needs to make a deception check as she walks away to try to act normal. She rolls a 22, but she hears a voice ring out to her. "You there, I want to ask you some questions." Fern just keeps walking, pretending that she didn't hear it. FCG then moves away from the bundle up toward a fence, and then continues walking or rolling next to Fern, keeping Odahan a little bit out of sight. They both hear the sound of someone landing, as Odahan Thule lands in front of them. They try to keep walking and ignore her yet again, but they feel the steel of Odahan Thule's blades up to their necks. Fern says that she forgot her purse yet again, and Odahan says that she looks familiar. Odahan says they are looking for some uninvited guests on the moon. Fern asks what they look like, and Odahan Thule says they look like them. At this point, 3 echoes of Odahan appear. FCG says that there's no need for violence. They say that Imogen wants to meet Odahan and talk to her. Deception check of 12. Odahan asks where Imogen is. Fern says that she's at the Bloody Bridge, and FCG says that's where they last saw her, and that she will need them to lead her to her. Odahan says that she came here because she can feel Imogen. Fern says she probably felt her instead, and Odahan says that she is one of the Rudisborn and the one that he told her about. They can't hurt Fern, but FCG isn't needed, so Odahan swings for FCG. Odahan hits and deals 13 damage, and then adds 7 more damage with a psionic strike, knocking FCG back 15 feet and putting them prone. Odahan attacks again, dealing 13 more damage and then 9 more damage on top of it again. And the last swing for 14 damage and 9 more damage. Fern yells to stop. Odahan asks where Imogen is, and Fern says Koviris. Deception check at 19. Odahan asks why she's there. Fern says that she can't say and that they need to sort of bring her there. FCG tells everyone that Odahan has captured them and it's time for them to run with their telepathic bond. Orm looks outside and sees the caravan, but that's it. It's about 200 feet away. FCG then casts Banish on Odahan. She rolls a 14, which would be a failure, but she uses a legendary resistance. But FCG can aim it at 3 people, and they target themselves and Fern. They both choose to fail, and Odahan goes to attack, but they both vanish. Fern and FCG are now in a gray space, not sure where, some sort of demi-plane. And the second they get there, they start transforming into clouds. The rest of the party choose to roll up the hole and turn into mist. They will not be able to drain the Wheelmaster of any power. Before that, Ashton runs over to the Elder and taps him on the head lightly to try to leave a mark. But Barthy says that he's going to have to knock him out, so Ashton obliges. Lana drains the Wheelmaster of life and color using an ability I missed the name of, which is my bad. She turns to Ash, and Lana says that the Wheelmaster's power should have been hers, not the halflings. She starts to transform into mist as well. FCG and Fern come back from the plane that they were in mist form, as it only lasts 1 minute if they're not from that plane, so they had a temporary dismissal. There are 2 shadows or echoes that are still there waiting for them. They both attack as FCG and Fern reappear. They both hit and deal 16 damage to FCG and 12 to Fern. As they leave, Odahan can make one try to attack again, and they do, and it hits FCG for 14 more damage. The 2 of them then blast off into the air. As they fly off, they see the slash of a silver blade as Odahan jumps after them but misses. She's able to jump at least 100 feet into the air, which is fucking insane. The others make their way over and they all reconvene. They see Odahan and her echoes disappear as she looks up at them. The party then start flying away. They think Odahan will try to follow them. Lana thinks that they can find the rebels, or hopes they can find the rebels. The party realize Odahan only knew the direction that Imogen was in, and not necessarily her location. So they think that her pain with Predathos is what drew her towards them. Some of the party think they could leave Rudis at this point, but Ashton thinks they need to find allies up here before they do that. The party chooses to go toward the capital and find a place to rest on the way there. No more time for dream walking, as it will only lead them to other problems. As they fly off, an hour passes and they see the storm starts rolling up upon the party. They don't feel it'll be safe to fly within it, and they are far past the mountain ranges at this point and more into an open plains area. Orm looks for a place for them to wait out the storm, and he sees a crack in the ground that they can hide in. They fly down into it and it goes down at least 200 feet and they see bones in it. They choose to keep going down the crack, and after a little bit of time they hear rushing water. They eventually see an underground river. In this crack they also see what looks to be trees growing up that have no leaves in it, or tree roots anyway. Orm looks up and sees about 40 feet above them is a hole that they can go into. They fly up into it, and it's very tight. For about 60 feet, it's only 5 by 5. Eventually, they reach an opening where there looks to be a bunch of sharp rocks. Lana thinks that they should leave. This might be one of the worm's tunnels. Lana rolls a perception check of 15 and sees that they're in a opening that looks like a geode with a bunch of crystal-like rocks inside of it. They think at this point they're safe. Imogen says, or brings up the fact how they're going to get out of here if they sleep here, because they will lose their mist form, and it will be very uncomfortable to travel 60 feet back out the small tunnel and then have to, wall climb up 200 feet at least. Chenny looks to see if there is anywhere where water is coming and going into this room. With a natural 20, he's able to see that there's definitely a pool in the middle of this room, or off to the side of this room. He sees that there's also a tunnel underneath the pool where it's gathering and it seems to rush away. They could try to swim through it if they wanted to. They'll transform back. It's rough to step in here because there's nowhere that's really all nice and flat. They're all surrounding the water at this point. At this point, luckily, Fern decided to prepare water breathing the day before because they saw water at least once while they were dreamwalking. The party are hyped about this. Fern casts water breathing on everyone, and FCG is leading the way because they cast lights with their eyes, as, their little eye beams. Before they go into the water, Chetney sniffs around. The smells around here are very familiar to them, unlike the surface smells. It is a smell of wet minerals, much like what you would likely get in Uthadern. They all jump in, and FCG leads the way. It is a winding tunnel. Eventually, they come out to a 1-foot opening where there's a little bit of air, and the water has a light current to it. Fern looks down and sees that they are about 60 feet from the bottom, at least. There's probably more beneath that. Orm can hear splashing going up against the current. At this point, they are at like a T intersection of the water where they can either follow the current and go left or go against the current and go right. Group athletics check as they decide to go against the current towards the splashing. Chenny with a 27, Laudna with a 5, FCG with a 15, Fern with a 1, Laudna with a 12, Orm and Ashton both get 15. They come out to another opening. The ceiling at this point is out of sight, however, and they can see a waterfall but don't know where it's coming from either. Imogen sends one of her dancing lights up, and they can see carvings that look like man-made, and they also see a man-made structure. It looks like a temple of some kind, and it looks to be of elven make. It's extremely old. Laudna casts spider climb and begins to make her way up the wall up toward the temple. As she climbs, she sees greenery within. There are enchanted gardens here, and these enchantments have kept the greenery alive for however long this has been here. Obviously, since when this place was shot up into the air. She sees a lamp on the wall, and there are bones stuck in place within the walls, captured in this moment of time. She gets to the top of the waterfall, and she finds a walkway. She takes out the immovable rod and sends a rope down that's attached to it so the rest can climb up. The elven culture here is similar to the one they know, but a little bit different. They see broken pillars and benches, more fossilized bones and bodies. Orm tries to see if he can pinpoint where and when this came from, but with a 14 history check he can't tell. Laudna looks for some writing, but can't see any of it. Chenny touches some bone in the ground and tries to use Grim Psychometry again, but with a history check of 17, it feels like it is a fleeting memory that he can't quite grasp. He sees blue skies that turn red. He feels fear, but it seems too old for him to understand. Laudna takes out a scryball and sees nothing on it. Luckily, Odahan hasn't followed them. Ashton and Imogen say that they could stay here forever because this place is very beautiful to them. They continue to walk within the temple. They find a tiny garden with red berries, and there is, to the right of it, a painted doll made of porcelain. It looks to have elven features. Laudna decides to take it as she has a doll fixation. I don't know why. Imogen looks at the berries to see if they are familiar, and with a 15 nature check, they are not. Fern tries one, and it's delicious, and she heals a hit point. It's a good berry. Like, literally, the spell, good berry. The party want to take some, but FCG thinks that that's wrong a little bit, but the rest of the party think it'll regrow, so they take some. Ashton tries to piece together where they would be within this temple, but it's hard to tell with all the rocks sort of smashing through the walls. The rest of the party join him trying to figure out what's going on. Chenny sees that the area here is well protected, but other areas have what looks to be glass all over the place that have been superheated. So some areas are magically protected and some areas aren't. They continue walking again, and they see more and more of the rock smashing through the walls, seeing less magically protected areas. They see where the waterfall is coming through on the part of the rock face, and they can also see on the same rock face they can climb up it. So they can either follow the waterfall tunnel or they can climb up the rocks. Orm looks through the water and sees that the tunnel goes on for a while. They haven't seen rain, so they don't think it's like rain coming down through the earth here, but there's some sort of magical source up there. They think there might be a portal to another location or a backdoor to Ruidus. It does seem to be fresh water. Fern can turn into a fish and swim up it, and the party remembers something like this happening before, where she went into a water plane at the start of their journey, which was funny because I was thinking of the same thing just before they said it. Fern turns into a sea slug and then tries swimming up the tunnel against the current. Athletics check of 17. She slowly pushes her way up the tunnel / water current. She goes up about 80 feet and suddenly there's no more current. She looks up and there's a light above her. She swims up and breaks the surface. She's in a lake with a lush forest surrounding it on a very cloudy day. She can't hear the others and they can't hear her. She seems to be somewhere else, a different plane. It's beautiful here. And this is where the episode ends. And there we have it, episode 85 of Campaign 3 of Critical Role. It was fun, it was good, and it feels like a episode that's leading into something more. It didn't quite answer any questions, it only asked more questions. The only thing that we know for certain is that Imogen can't dreamwalk without giving a ping of where she is, which is nice, and we also know that Odahan Thule is on their tail, which is nice. I really want them to have a conflict with her, but once they rest up, I kind of want them to have a moment where they just decide, fuck it, we need to fight this bitch to get rid of her. So maybe they rest up, dreamwalk, she catches up with them, and they're waiting for her. I think that sort of thing would be really cool to happen. But I'm very intrigued by wherever the hell Fern just ended up, because if there is a back door into Ruidus, that would be pretty nuts. That would be pretty good. That would mess up quite a few plans. The only issue I have is they would have to transform a bunch of their army into smaller creatures to swim through the current, but they could just open the current up a bit more, the tunnel. They could open up a bit more. So I don't know. I think it's cool. I'm very excited to see what happens with wherever the hell Fern is. I just really want them to fight Odahan. Something about fighting Odahan is just sitting there making me want to fight her. Because it's on the bingo sheet and I want her to die. I want the bingo sheet to happen, damn it. But anyway, that was episode 85 of Campaign 3 of Critical Role. Let me know what you guys thought about it down below, and I'll see you guys on Tuesday for whatever video I make next. Peace.